they recently talked about how they were how companies are able to take their excess uh, profits and put them into their stock, something that was illegal maybe 20, 30 years ago. And ever since the Reagan administration, the steps that are taken to provide some security to its investors are slowly being taken away. Reagan administration through the Trump administration.
Well, I think in here in the U.S. there was the Glass-Steagall Act. Two acts in the 20th century that did most to screw people over was Taft-Hartley, which was basically was an anti-labor union thing in the late 40s that Harry Truman opposed, which basically meant that people, this is why we have, like, Texas is a right to work state, which means basically the exact opposite. I don't have a right to work. I can't go in and demand a job. And this means that employers can fire you, and it decreases the numbers of unions. The other one is Glass-Steagall, which basically said, it used to be 30, 40 years ago in the U.S., you had commercial banks, which were insured by what was called the FDIC, the federal, I forget whatever. And then there were home lending banks, savings and loan associations, which were for individuals, and that was covered by what was called the FSLIC, which I forget what it stood for, because I worked at a bank in the late 80s. Then what happened was the 1987 stock market crash, and they decided, well, we're going to fucking get rid of the Glass-Steagall Act, which basically said banks couldn't, you had to have commercial banks, you had to have savings and loans banks for individuals, and neither of them could get into the insurance industry. Well, they scrapped that, I think, during late Reagan or early Bush 1, or maybe it was even during Clinton. It might have been during Clinton, actually, in the late 90s. And for the last 20-some years, you had, this is why we got in 2008 the banking crisis, was that you have these people who know nothing about Wall Street. Bankers themselves don't know about Wall Street. Bankers know about, I'm going to lend to you, you're going to pay back at this interest, then I can charge this amount of interest or give this amount of interest to people who invest or save their money in it. They don't know damn shit about insurance stuff and actuarial charts and whatnot. So imagine you had me, someone who's a writer, and you put me in charge of running the aquarium at SeaWorld, and 3 weeks later, why are all the dolphins dead? Well, I don't know fucking shit about dolphins, but these people act as if you can just take this generic business degree, even if it's a master's or a PhD in business, and go from automobiles to AT&T to the food industry. That's why the companies that I've generally worked for, including the current one, are so fucked up, is you have people who don't know shit about the business that they're in.